There are certain movies you walk into with expectations, and then there are movies you walk into almost resistant. The Housemaid was firmly in the second category for me. I saw the trailer, I didn't like it. I thought it looked cheap, misleading, and vaguely disposable. And because of that, I had already decided I'm probably skipping this. But then something interesting happened. It didn't go straight to streaming. It didn't quietly disappear onto some algorithmic platform. It opened in actual theaters. So one morning around 11:30 a.m., I decided to give it a chance. And about 20 minutes into the film, I realized something. This movie wasn't just good. It was made for me. Not in a narcissistic way, but in a cinephile way. This is kind of movie Hollywood used to make for adults way. Because The Housemaid doesn't just tell a story. It resurrects a forgotten genre. Let me throw some names at you. Pacific Heights, The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, Deceived, Single White Female, Malice. If you recognize those titles, congratulations. You remember a time when Hollywood made adult thrillers for a wider audience. These movies weren't superhero films. They weren't franchises. They weren't four-quadrant IP machines. They were mid-budget, actor-driven, stylish, psychological, slightly dangerous, and yes, sometimes purposefully trashy. And the trashiness, that was part of the appeal. This wave existed because of the two nuclear hits, Fatal Attraction and Basic Instinct. Those films proved something studios have since forgotten. Adults will show up for movies that make them uncomfortable. Adults like suspense that's grounded in human behavior. Adults don't need explosions to feel tension. For a brief period, Hollywood understood this. And then they flooded the market. What happens when something makes money? Hollywood copies it, then copies it again, then copies it badly. By the late 90s and early 2000s, the erotic thriller had become diluted. Too many knockoffs, too many lazy scripts, too many films chasing the surface without understanding the engine. Eventually, the genre didn't disappear. It was demoted. From theatrical releases to cheap TV movies, shot in 10 to 12 days, minimal lighting, zero atmosphere, no character depth, they all ended up on daytime TV. And with that, the adult thriller became something people associated with boredom instead of excitement, which is tragic because the genre itself was never the problem. The execution was. This way The Housemaid surprised me because it doesn't feel embarrassed of what it is. It embraces suspicion, sexual tension, power dynamics, class anxiety, psychological manipulation. But it does so with modern polish and strong performances. The story follows Millie, played by Sweeney, a woman trying to escape her past. She accepts a live-in housemaid job for the wealthy Winchester family, Nina and Andrew. Beautiful house, perfect life, too perfect. And anyone who has watched the thriller knows when something looks perfect, it's already rotting underneath. One of the biggest reasons this movie succeeds is Millie herself. She isn't a genius detective, a superhero, a hyper-competent fantasy character. She's tired, she's guarded, she's cautious, she's trying to survive. And that matters. Because great thrillers don't work when the protagonist is untouchable. They work when the protagonist is vulnerable. Sydney Sweeney plays this beautifully, not as a victim, but as someone constantly calculating. What can I say? What can I say? Who do I trust? What happens if I'm wrong? I cared about her. I wanted her to win. That alone puts this movie ahead of most modern thrillers. Now let's talk about Amanda Seyfried. Because this performance is doing a lot of heavy lifting, her character is layered, contradictory, unsettling, and most importantly, unpredictable. She makes choices that initially feel odd, then suspicious, then terrifying, then tragic. And what impressed me most is how restrained she is. She never overplays it. She lets silence do the work. She lets poster do the work. She lets small emotional shifts signal danger. This is the kind of performance that demands a rewatch. And Brendan, whom I previously noticed in Drop, is another surprise. He's charming, he's confident, he's unsettling, and that combination is dangerous. The film understands something crucial. The most frightening characters aren't loud, they're calm, they're attractive, they feel safe until they don't. Every interaction feels like it could tip in any direction, and that tension, that's classic thriller DNA. I've enjoyed many films by Paul Feig. But this might be his best looking movie. The framing is controlled. The lighting is deliberate. The house itself feels like a character. Everything is clean, almost too clean. And that visual perfection mirrors the story. Beautiful surfaces, corruption underneath. This is not a lazy movie. This is a carefully designed one. I cannot stress this enough. This movie works better in a theater. The silence, the anticipation, the shared discomfort. This is what adult thrillers were meant for. Not second screen viewing, not distracted scrolling, not background noise. This is sit down, lean forward cinema. The Housemaid isn't just a good thriller. It's a proof of concept. It proves mid-budget adult films can work. Audiences still want suspense. Not everything needs to be IP. Character-driven stories still matter. Hollywood didn't stop making these movies because audiences hated them. Hollywood stopped because studios got lazy. And this film reminds us what we lost. If you have already seen Avatar, if you caught the latest animated blockbuster, if you're tired of safe plastic cinema, go see The Housemaid. Not just because it's good, but because if movies like this succeed, Hollywood might remember how to make films for adults again.